Welcome to the deep dive. We take a pile of interesting research and boil it down for you. Now, when you hear China and internet control, you probably think, great firewall, right?
Almost certainly. It's the term everyone knows.
But what if that whole idea, that image of a single wall, is actually, well, way too simple for what's really happening?
Exactly. That's what we're digging into today. We're looking at China's really sophisticated system of digital control. Experts are starting to call it the Locknet.
The Locknet, okay.
Yeah, and it's much more than just a static firewall. It's dynamic, it adapts, it weaves together people and machines online and offline. It's a whole different beast.
So our mission here is to try and unpack this digital maze. We want to understand how it works, sure, but also, who's involved and maybe the most interesting part, why people inside the system often see it so differently than we do outside.
Absolutely, because you'll hear perspectives that range from deep concern to, honestly, contentment. Some people actually prefer their domestic online world.
Which is fascinating. Okay, so let's start taking apart that old Great Firewall image. You said it's much more than a wall.
It really is. The Locknet, think of it less like a wall and more like maybe a net or a series of nets, layers. It's dynamic, multi-layered, adaptable, and crucially, it integrates human oversight with automated systems, with AI.
Human and machine working together.
Right. And the goal isn't necessarily perfect blocking of everything. It's more about efficiently minimizing dangerous information. Sometimes that just means good enough censorship.
Good enough censorship. That sounds pragmatic.
It is, and this whole Locknet concept has been really well articulated in a new study and online resource by Laura Adelson, who's an assistant professor of computer science up at Northeastern University. She worked with Jessica Backey of China on it.
Laura Edelson at Northeastern. Okay, so this is grounded in some serious academic work. How did they actually study something this big and, well, deliberately opaque? What was their method?
Yeah, it's a huge challenge. Their approach was really comprehensive. They did tons of in-depth interviews with experts from various fields. They sifted through like decades of computer science research, specifically looking at China's internet systems.
Decades worth, wow.
Yeah, and they meticulously tracked policy shifts, regulatory changes, how the rules evolved over time. So the study really tries to get at the interplay between the tech side and the human side of the censorship regime.
So it's not just code, it's culture and policy too.
Exactly. And that gave them insights into its real purpose, its actual capabilities, how far it reaches, and even, where it might be headed.
And you mentioned the human element is key. That's not just the people making policy, right? It's people doing the day-to-day work. The scale sounds enormous.
Oh, it is. Just think about this one example they cite, Chen Lijia, which is a pseudonym, obviously. He works as a content auditor for China's biggest search engine. We're talking over 1 billion users.
1 billion users.
Right. And his company employs this massive team just for content moderation.
Yeah.
Huge numbers of people. And their top priority, politics.
No surprise there. So what does his day look like?
It's mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Chen himself reviews something like over 10,000 items every single day.
10,000 pieces of content.
Yeah. And then you've got the quality controllers above him checking the auditor's work. They might look at 40, even 50,000 items a day.
That volume. You'd think mistakes would be constant, but you said good enough censorship?
Right. It's not about perfection. It's about managing the flow. But what's really striking is Ken's own view on it. He doesn't see it in terms of justice or morality. For him, it's just survival.
Just a job he has to do.
Pretty much. He basically says, look, people at the bottom, they don't have many choices. If you want to criticize the people who created this job, not the cogs, like him just trying to follow orders and, make a living.
That's a really stark way to put it. The pressure on those individuals must be immense. And there's a twist with Chen, isn't there? A real contradiction.
Yeah, this is fascinating. Despite his personal feelings, apparently, he secretly opposed the party in the past, even had dreams of, like, joining the National Army over in Taiwan.
Wow.
Yeah. Despite all that, he now actively helps make the censorship system smarter. He finds new keywords, new ways people are talking about sensitive stuff, and he reports them up the chain so they can be added to the AI filters, the blocking lists.
So he's literally training the system that enforces the rules he might personally disagree with.
It's a profound contradiction, isn't it?
Yeah.
It just shows how the system can kind of absorb people,
Yeah.
even those who might resist internally. For him, it became about navigating his reality, about survival, like he said, that feeling of having no other choice.
It really underlines the pervasiveness of it all. So this raises a bigger question then. If it's not just about silencing critics, what's the main driving force behind this massive censorship operation? What's the core purpose?
Well, the research, including Adelson's work, strongly suggests the primary goal isn't simply shutting down criticism of the government or leaders or policies, although, that definitely happens.
Okay.
The main aim seems to be, and this is a key phrase, curtailing collective action.
Collective action, so stopping people from organizing.
Exactly. Silencing comments or content that might represent, reinforce, or crucially, spur social mobilization. Getting people together to do something, and this is important. It doesn't matter if the content itself is critical of the state or even supportive of it.
Wait, even supportive comments can be censored.
If they seem likely to get large groups of people coordinating or taking action offline, yes. The focus is on preventing coordinated activity that could challenge stability, whatever the topic. It's more about social control, preventing unrest, than purely ideological control.
That's a really crucial distinction. It's not just thought police, it's action police. Preventing coordination.
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah.
As long as people are just complaining individually, it's often tolerated. It's when they start connecting and organizing that the system really clamps down.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense of the good enough approach, too. You don't need to catch every negative word, just stop things from escalating.
Precisely.
All right, so we've got a clearer picture of how this Locknet works, the tech, the human element, the purpose. But now, how is it all perceived? Because this is where things get really interesting, right? There seems to be this huge gap between the Western narrative and how many Chinese citizens, even those living abroad, experience it.
Oh, absolutely. There's a major disconnect. In the West, the narrative is almost universally negative. You hear heavy censorship, digital authoritarianism, attack on free speech. It's framed as a huge risk to human rights, especially for, journalists, lawyers, activists.
The standard narrative we usually hear.
Right. It's seen as the polar opposite of the free and open internet model that the U.S. and allies promote. You see specific platforms like WeChat described as like a powerful weapon of social control used for surveillance, even on foreigners, censoring messages sent outside China sometime.
And journalists report issues too, right?
Constantly. Foreign journalists working in China talk about increasing problems, getting visas denied, facing harassment, hacking attempts, sources being intimidated. It leads to a lot of self-censorship, understandably.
And China tries to influence opinion outside its borders too.
Yeah, there are things like China Watch, those paid inserts you sometimes see in major international newspapers. Plus, the crackdown on tools like VPNs, the things people use to get around the firewall, that's getting stricter. People using them can face fines, and people selling them, actual jail time.
Okay, so that's the Western view, pretty clear, pretty negative. But then what about the people living inside this system, or even Chinese people living overseas, the diaspora? You suggested many aren't as bothered as we might assume. Why is that?
It's complex, but there are several big reasons. One is just the language. It sounds simple, but it's huge. Many Chinese people just don't prefer reading content in English.
Okay.
And the Chinese language content that is available outside the firewall, maybe on international sites or platforms, it's often seen as, well, less attractive or less relevant than what they can get on domestic Chinese platforms.
So the stuff inside feels more engaging, more useful.
For many, yes.
Huh.
And it's telling that even many Chinese people living overseas, like in the UK or US, they still primarily get their news and entertainment from mainland Chinese media sources. The language barrier is real, and so is cultural relevance.
Makes sense. What else?
There's also normalization. For a lot of people in China, especially maybe older generations, government control over information, including the internet, isn't some shocking new infringement. It's just seen as a natural thing, like paying taxes. It's just part of how things work.
So it's baked into expectations.
To a large extent, yeah. And adding to that, some sources suggest that, particularly at the local level, Chinese governance can actually feel quite responsive.
Yeah.
You might have local officials sharing their personal WeChat accounts or phone numbers so people can contact them directly with problems.
Really? Direct lines like that?
Apparently so, in some cases. And this can create a feeling, whether accurate or not, that the system is actually, quite sensitive to public needs, maybe even, as one source put it, more susceptible to the will of the majority than the illusion of democracy in the West.
That's a provocative comparison. And what about the online world itself? Do people feel they're missing out on Facebook or YouTube?
Not necessarily, because China has built its own massive, vibrant digital ecosystem. You've got platforms for everything. Bilibili for videos, kind of like YouTube. Weibo, which is sort of like Twitter X mixed with a public Facebook feed. Xiaohongshu, which is huge, like Instagram and Pinterest combined.
So they have their own versions of everything.
Pretty much. And these platforms are tailored specifically for Chinese users with content that's, generally government approved, but also just culturally resonant. For many, it just meets their needs, so the desire for foreign sites isn't as strong as you might think. And then there's the argument for cyber sovereignty. You hear this from some Chinese citizens.
Cyber sovereignty, meaning?
Meaning they actually prefer their own government controlling their internet space rather than, say, American tech giants operating under U.S. laws and potentially U.S. government influence. They value the stability that comes with that control.
Stability is a recurring theme.
It is. Some people explicitly point to things they see in the West. One source mentioned the craziness of Trump and the MAGA movement as reasons why they appreciate having more online order and stability back home.
Interesting. They see Western online discourse as chaotic?
Some do, yeah. And perhaps counterintuitively, some argue that on certain topics, the Chinese internet can actually feel less censored than the West, and that it has less of a harsh cancel culture.
Less cancel culture. That's surprising.
It's a perspective you hear sometimes, yeah. That the specific things that get you attacked or deplatformed might be different, and perhaps less pervasive in some ways than Western online dynamics.
Okay. And VPNs. You mentioned the crackdown, but how widespread is usage, really?
Well, despite being technically illegal, VPN use is actually pretty common, especially among university students. One study suggested over 30% use them regularly.
30%. So the crackdown isn't total.
It seems the government takes a somewhat permissive approach. They tolerate it to a degree. It's like they're balancing the need for information access, especially for academics and businesses, against the risk of social tension. The sense is, as long as users don't actively start shit, don't organize protests or actively stir up major trouble,
They're generally left alone.
generally fine, as one source put it. And this preference for domestic platforms, it carries over to the diaspora too. There was a UK study looking at Chinese people living there.
Yeah. What did it find?
It found they overwhelmingly use Chinese language social media. Like 79%, nearly 80% use it every day, multiple times a day.
Wow. And why?
Top reasons were staying in touch with family and friends back in China, that was over 80%, getting news related to China, over 70%, and just entertainment, also over 70%. So it really reinforces how these Chinese digital platforms help people maintain their Chinese roots even abroad and create this kind of digital diaspora community.
So putting this all together, this deep dive into China's Locknet, it paints a picture that's far more complex, more nuanced than just Great Firewall, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It's this intricate dance between technology, massive human labor, different societal views, competing values about freedom and stability. It's not simple at all.
We've seen how the control isn't just about blocking bad words, but about preventing collective action, and how different contexts, cultural, political, lead to vastly different ways people experience and think about the internet.
Right. And hopefully for you listening, exploring this offers a richer understanding. It pushes us to think about the many different ways societies are grappling with the digital age, and that there isn't just one single way to manage or experience online life.